Yeah, it's a nice looking car. It's a shame about the wheels, they're having to come off. And,
yeah, and in fact, everything, the interior, the whole lot.
Really? Everything?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they are nice wheels, aren't they?
Yeah.
Still, it's going to look fantastic as a rally car.
It is.
And the cage and everything that will go in here.
Right.
It's going to make
As you say, it will look tremendously different than it does today.
Indeed, yeah. But all this nice trim and everything is going to be ripped out.
Mark Nuttall's been into rallying for many years, and if he pulls this project off, he's in line to make a real name for himself in the motorsport community.
I've been driving rally cars since 1995 when I started in Skodas. I did that for 3-4 years, and then I moved on to the Ford Car Rally Championship. Ultimately, I moved into the Polo Championship. They were all Group N cars, which basically means a showroom specification.
But why does rallying in particular grab Mark's enthusiasm?
It's like guiding a missile that's on ball bearings. You have to preempt what's coming up on the corner. You've got to put the instruction into the car to make it go around that bend. And that's something you've got to learn because it's something totally alien to anything that you've ever done before.
But now Mark set himself the biggest challenge of his life.
And hopefully we are going to be the first people ever to rally this car in a British national forest event.
But why the Mini? The classic Mini was obviously a sensation on and off the track. A breakthrough in styling, packaging and engineering. The 4 wheels on each corner ensured it would stick to corners like glue. The new BMW Mini has shown its nimble characteristics too, with events such as the John Cooper Challenge. But this is on tarmac. To create a rally version of the new Mini would be a serious challenge in itself.
The main difference between the old Mini and the new Mini is that in the old Mini's case, it came along at a time when cars were not as developed as they are today. So the playing field was more equal. And because the Mini was so sure-footed and the centre of gravity was so low, it could get around bends very, very quickly. The new Mini, I know from people I've spoken to, have all frowned upon the fact that it won't have enough suspension travel. That is the main area that we have to address with this car. The car I want to build is an all-singing, all-dancing rally car with attention to detail on every aspect of the car, especially the suspension.
But why is the suspension on a rally car so important?
The standard dampers on any road car are not suitable for forest rallying. They're both made to a price and also made to give a satisfactory ride for normal people to do their normal daily motoring.
The looming suspension problem would need to be addressed in good time. But for now, Mark's new Mini would start its adventure here in Padiham, Lancashire, where a team of Mini specialists at Minisport would see the project through with the help of various other experts.
My initial thoughts when I got the telephone call was, oh my God, somebody else wants something for nothing.
Hey.
Hey, Mark. I got it. Good to see you.
Right.
I think we're probably one of the best people to come to for this project with 40 years of experience. I have a lot of experience in modern day rallying, for rallying other vehicles and running other people in other vehicles.
So what is the first job?
My first job, I think, Mark, is to we'll get it on the ramp. We'll have a look at it together. We'll go through it. I'll tell you exactly what my feelings are, what we should do, and go on from there, I think. Classic Mini made its mark in rallying. It sold cars because of the rallying and the competition it went into. Most people remember the old Classic Minis, of the Montes, the Monte Carlo rallies, etc. BMW haven't picked this up, I feel, because they don't want the two cars to be compared. They've produced a brand new car. They've still called it Mini because of the name, but it is a new car and they want to send that down its own lines.
So, Mark's new Mini Cooper S may be just hours old from the showroom, but already Mark and Daniel are deep in discussion about what to rip off and what to put on the car to transform it into the competitive rallying challenger.
We're really limited with the way that the car's designed, that we're going to have to keep this front end set
What
up.
about the suspension?
The springs and the shock absorbers, there is some inherent problems with the shock
Oh,
absorbers.
problems! Don't give me problems.
Well, I think we can get around them. The main thing is that the spring, when the car's sat on the floor, is very, very short, and everything rides above the tyre. What we need to do for gravel is we need to have a longer spring, get more suspension travel with the shock absorbers. New Mini hasn't really been pushed into its limits for competition as we see it today. The Cooper Challenge cars, for argument's sake, are basically a car you could still go shopping in. They're designed that way. You can take them on the track, you go hill climbing. We're trying to get a car here that you go and use on gravel, which is forest. The surface is different, the terrain is horrendously rough. That's where we're trying to push this car.
So, strengthen these, new suspension on the front.
Yeah, strengthen these, strengthen the subframe.
Yeah, get rid of this?
Well, no, we can't get rid of the catalyst, obviously for regulations and everything else, but we will have a new exhaust system made for it, incorporating a special catalyst.
Okay.
The Mini Cooper S's gearbox has been set up for optimum driving enjoyment and practicality under normal tarmac driving conditions. For Mark Nuttall's rally project, though, the box is hopelessly unsuitable, and yes, it's got to go as well.
The gears are very, very good, but the problem is with the car, it's geared for 177 miles an hour. It's really, Mark, I don't think you want to be doing in the forest. So we've got quite a bit of work to do with the gear ratios, I think.
In a forest event, it's not top speed that you need so much as acceleration. So the current Mini is probably geared too high. So we need to look at that, gear it down. Okay, a box of bits, Daniel. What are we doing to this then?
This is the internals of a 6-speed gearbox out of the car. This is where we set off with the gear ratios and basically trying to work out what we're going to do with it.
So you've actually sat down with a piece of paper and you've designed this new gearbox, and you have designed what speed it's going to achieve in each gear.
Yeah, I've sat down and worked all these ratios out of what I want to see happen.
Dedicated man. We also need to strengthen that gearbox a little bit. The pattern of the teeth is going to be, instead of being helicoiled, which is sort of diagonal, it's going to be horizontal across. Make a lot more noise, but it'll be a stronger gearbox at the end of the day.
The Cooper S is a very well-made car, but there are quite a few Achilles heels underneath that need addressing for this project. For normal road driving, there's no problem having exposed fuel and brake lines, but in the harsh world of motorsport, they won't be good enough.
The brake lines and fuel lines and the electric cable, because the batteries in the boot will all be run inside the car, obviously for the same reasons.
Obviously to stop stones hitting it.
Yeah, yes. The last thing we want is a fire or you to lose the brakes.
But protecting the car is the least of the guy's problems. The main reason it is generally considered why the new Mini hasn't been a natural choice for rally use is because of its low ride height and the lack of suspension travel.
The biggest problem for us, Mark, with the whole project is the front suspension, is this strut area here.
This is the main reason why BMW, I think, don't think we can get this car on the gravel.
Very much so, yes. Yeah, it's a big, big problem. When Mark first telephoned me and we had the initial conversations about the project, I went away, sat long and hard and thought, what are the pitfalls of this car? Biggest problem I could see, we could get the power, we could get the brakes, we could do the safety features, but could we get the suspension correct?
Mark and Daniel decided to bring in one of Europe's top experts in suspension and damping systems to help design and manufacture kit with just the characteristics they need. Gordon Birtwistle has been involved in designing suspension systems since the 1960s.
Designing a damper is a fair challenge, really, if you're working on a car which is essentially a production car. When you take the Mini Cooper, for example, the car has been designed to do certain functions. It has to look good, handle well, and be acceptable to 99% of people who buy it. So when you come to make something that's got to go through a forest at high speed, the parameters are different. So in this case, we've looked carefully at the basic car to run the car at, say, 60 millimetres higher than the road car, that gives us more travel for the suspension to absorb the more aggressive road surfaces.
Meanwhile, back in Lancashire, Daniel has been thinking of an adaptation of his own so that Gordon's new suspension system can be fitted to their Mini.
Yeah, Mark, something I knocked up earlier, a bit of a sketch. Plate for the strut top. As we said before, the car's going to get a hell of a pounding in the forest. We need some strength in there. It's a 6mm steel plate that we're going to weld on the top. Lift it up, gives a little bit more suspension travel. Let me show you on the car.
Will this be slightly higher then?
Yes.
Platform?
The platform will be raised by about 25mm.
Okay.
Let me show you. Right, Mark. Front suspension. Problem that we've got here is the size of the front spring, the length of travel. And when I was showing you the plate before, Mark, the plate goes up here. We weld it in up here. It gives us about 20-25mm extra height for the shock absorber. We're going to narrow the spring off, so it'll drop down the back of the wheel. As it stands now, the wheel comes to here and it sits in here. We want to narrow it off and bring it down.
So basically, in short, we have to make this suspension bigger and accommodate it by welding in the top plates.
We need to make it longer. We need the travel. The basic travel on the car from standard is far too short for what we want.
Okay.
We need to get the ground clearance. We need to make it all longer.
The brakes are another important consideration when creating a rally car. They won't just need to cope with a leisurely run to the wine bar or a motorway sprint. We're talking about extremely heavy use in a professional sporting environment.
Yeah, the major points to take into consideration when you're manufacturing calipers for a competition car would be, the punishment that these parts can get in a rally is incredible, really. So you've got heat dissipation and actually a reasonable strength, the stiffness of the actual caliper. We've actually pared the caliper down as much possible to keep the weight down as well. So there's a happy medium between the two. You want a certain amount of strength and then you want reasonably light, but it's got to work and it's got to survive the rally. The main difference between this caliper and the old Mini caliper is that this is actually machined from one solid piece of material. It's not two halves held together with screws. So the flex and the weight of the caliper is, flex is greatly reduced and the weight's greatly reduced due to being one piece of material. It's a far better way of making calipers. There's very, very few automotive calipers done that way.
Meanwhile, back in Padiham, Mark's new Mini has been started to be stripped apart. The bits are stored on a shelf, but there's no way this particular car will ever be returned to normal road use. Virtually everything has got to be taken out, because that's the only way a professional roll cage can be installed. While the lads are stripping the Mini out at Soham near Cambridge, a specialist roll cage company, Safety Devices, are busy designing and building the parts that will fit inside.
There are various types of safety cages, but for motorsport purposes there are really only two. There's the bolt-in type, which you would, as a customer, receive in knockdown form, packaged up, delivered to your premises, and you would bolt it together and fit it inside the vehicle yourself with nuts, bolts and screws, just by drilling a few holes. The other type, the more advanced type, is a welding cage, by which it's put together as a kit of parts and then taken piece by piece in through the doorway of the vehicle and erected in the car by welding. And it's completely connected to the body shell itself at all points around the periphery of the roof as well. We're fitting a welding cage into the Mini. It's normal conventional CDS material. It's going to be for national motorsport. It's not the top level international type of a vehicle. And the level of, shall we say, protection that we're giving is the maximum from the point of view of the layout of the cage. It's exactly the same as Colin McRae would have in one of his works cars to the new regulations which came into force last year.
As Tony and his team prepare the new roll cage, Mark's Mini, well, what's left of Mark's new Mini, is lifted onto the transporter, ready for its journey to Cambridge to get its roll cage fitted. On its return, the real work will have to begin.
We can't do the roll cage in-house. A very, very specialist process. They go through all sorts of testing procedures before the cages are allowed to be fitted. Very specialist job. It's something that we can't do here. We would much rather send it out to somebody that we trust
For the welding cage, it's a lot easier because you already know that if a customer is going to have a welding cage, that car is going to be dedicated for motorsport. It's never going to be used for anything else. You put all the cross tubes and the cross bracing in there, it means that the dogs and the family are never going to ever go back in that car again.
The bad news is that even with all the stuff stripped from the car, the addition of a heavy metal roll cage will actually add over 35 kilograms.
The new regulations came into force, would you believe, a year ago. We've only lived 30 years with the current regulations, but from now, unfortunately, it's added considerable amount of weight. It's about probably 35 kilograms has been added to that car. So if you get a short co-driver, you could probably compensate for it by getting a gnome or something like that to really reading the pace notes and reading the maps.